mama. Black girls coming through. Oh, that's good. My turn. My turn. I want to go. Y'all go. Black girls coming through. Black girls coming through. Wanna know your point of view. Love Michelle Obama. Don't forget my mama. Black girls coming through.
In 1866, the radical wing of the Republican Party gained control of Congress and gave the Negro the right to vote. At once, the Ku Klux Klan rose to power in the South. Acts of violence by the Klan were investigated by the federal government in a series of hearings and trials. The following is testimony from one such trial.
Are you the wife of Samuel Tutson?
Yes, sir.
Were you at home when he was whipped last spring?
Yes, sir, I was at home.
Tell us what took place then, what was done, and how it was done.
Well, at night, just as I got into bed, 5 men bulged right against the door, and it fell in the middle of the floor. George McRae, he ran right to me, and as I saw him coming, I took up the child, the baby, and held to him. I started to scream, and George McRae, he catched me by the throat, and he choked me. And then I didn't know what to do, so I catched the child, and then he catched it by its foot and slanged it out of my arms. They got me out the door. The old man was ahead of me, and I saw Dave Donnelly's stamp on him. They carried me to a pine, and they tied my hands there, and they pulled off all my linens, tore it off so that I didn't have a piece of rag on me as big as my hand. And I said, men, what are you going to do with me? And they said, God damn you, we will show you. You are living on another man's premises. And I said, no, I'm living on my own premises. I gave $150 for it. And Captain Buddington and Mr. Mundy told me to stay here. They whipped me for a while. Then George McRae would say, come here, True Klux. And then the True Klux would step off about as far as that gentleman, and they'd whisper. When they would come back, they'd whip me again. Every time he would go off, George McRae would make me squat down by the pine, and he would get his knees between my legs, and he'd say, oh, lady, if you don't let me have to do with you, I will kill you. I said, no. They whipped me. There were 4 men whipping me at once.
How many lashes did they give you in all?
I cannot tell you, for they whipped me from the crown of my head to the soles of my feet. I was just raw. After I got away from them that night, I ran to my house. My house was tore down, and I went in, and I felt for my bed, and I could not feel my children, and I could not see my children.
Did you find your children?
Oh, I did. Next day, 12 o'clock.
And where were they?
They were out into the field.
Did the baby get hurt, the one you had in your arms when they jerked it away?
Yes, sir. In one of his hips. When he began to walk, one of his hips was very bad. And every time you would stand it up, it would scream. But I rubbed it, and I rubbed it. And it looks like he is going to outgrow it now.
Federal investigations were not followed by effective federal action. From 1878 to 1915, over 3,000 Negroes were lynched in the South, a necessary protection, it was said, against Negro rapists. Yet most lynchings were either for no offense or for such causes such as insult, bad reputation, running quarantine, frightening children by shooting at rabbits, or mistaken identity.
There was no major breakthrough until 1954, when the Supreme Court declared segregation in public schools unconstitutional. Southern resistance to the court's decision came to a head 3 years later at Little Rock, Arkansas, when a 15-year-old girl tried to go to school at Central High.
The night before, I was so excited that I couldn't sleep. The next morning, I was about the first one up. While I was pressing my black and white dress that I had made to wear on the first day of school, my little brother turns on the TV set. They started telling about a large crowd gathered at the school. The man on the TV said he even wondered if we were going to show up that morning. Mother called from the kitchen where she was fixing breakfast. "Turn that TV off." She was so upset and worried. I wanted to comfort her, so I said, "Mother, don't worry." Daddy was walking back and forth from room to room with a sad expression. He was chewing on his pipe and he had a cigar in his hand. He didn't light either one. It would have been funny, only he was so nervous. Before I left home, Mother called us into the living room. She said we should have a word of prayer. Then I caught the bus and got off a block from the school. I saw a large crowd of people standing across the street from the soldiers guarding Central. As I walked on, the crowd suddenly got very quiet. For a moment, all I could hear was the shuffling of their feet. Then someone shouted, "Here she comes, get ready." The crowd moved in closer and began to follow me, calling me names. I still wasn't afraid, just a little bit nervous. Then my knees started to shake all of a sudden, and I wondered whether I could make it to the center of the entrance a block away. It was the longest block I've walked in my entire life. Even so, I still wasn't too scared because all the time I kept thinking the guards would protect me. When I got right in front of the school, I went up to a guard. He just looked straight ahead and didn't move to let me pass him. I stood looking at the school. It was so big. Just then, the guards let some white students go through. The crowd was quiet. I guess they were waiting to see what was going to happen. When I was able to steady my knees, I walked up to the guard who let the white students in. He too didn't move. When I tried to squeeze past him, he raised his bayonet. And the other guards closed in and they raised their bayonets. They glared at me with a mean look, and I was very frightened, and I didn't know what to do. I turned around, and the crowd came toward me. They moved closer and closer. Someone started yelling, "Lynch her! Lynch her!" I tried to see a friendly face somewhere in the mob, someone who maybe would help. I looked into the face of a woman, and it seemed a kind face. But when I looked at her again, she spat on me. They came closer shouting, "No niggers going into our school. Get out of here." Then I looked down the block, and I see a bench at the bus stop. I thought, if I can only get there, I will be safe. I don't know why the bench seemed a safe place for me, but I started walking toward it. I tried to close my mind to what they were shouting, and I kept saying to myself, if I can only get to the bench, I will be safe. When I finally got there, I don't think I could have taken another step. I sat down, and the mob crowded up, and they began shouting all over again. Someone hollered, drag over her to the tree. Let's take care of the nigger." Just then, a white man sat down beside me, put his arms around me, and patted my shoulder.
I don't know. She just sat there, her head down, tears were streaming down her cheeks. I don't know what made me put my arm around her, and I just kept saying, "Don't you let them see you cry, sweetie." Maybe she reminded me of my own 15-year-old daughter. Just then, a city bus came, and she got on it. She must have been in a state of shock. She never uttered a word.
I can't remember much about the bus ride, but the next thing I remember, I was standing in front of the School of the Blind, where my mother works. I ran upstairs, and I kept running until I reached Mother's classroom. Mother was standing at the window with her head bowed,
but she must have sensed I was there because she turned around. She looked as if she had been crying, and I wanted to tell her I was all right, but I couldn't speak. She put her arms around me, and I cried.
In 1971, Paulette Williams, a poet from Trenton, New Jersey, christened herself Ntozake Shange and wrote,
I sat up one night, walking a board house, screaming, crying, the ghost of another woman who was missing what I was missing. I wanted to jump out of my bones and be done with myself. Leave me alone and go on in the wind. It was too much. I fell into a numbness till the only tree I could see took me up in her branches, held me in the breeze, made me dawn dew, that chill at daybreak. The sun wrapped me up, swinging rose light everywhere. The sky laid over me like a million men. I was cold. I was burning up. A child in endlessly weaving garments for the moon with my tears. I found God in myself, and I loved her. I loved her. Fiercely.
In 1999, a woman identified as Carrie, a victim of extreme physical abuse by her male partner, gave this testimony to Dr. Traci West, a United Methodist minister, professor of ethics, and author of the book, Wounds of the Spirit, Black Women, Violence, and Resistance Ethics.
It sucks to be black in the United States. But you know what? I'm a type of person, when I see roots, when I see posters of what happened to black people throughout history, I can't look at it, you know? It hurts too much inside to look at it. And then, when you come out here, it's like, here are all these white people out here. And I say to them, what the hell makes you think that you're supposed to be here? That's how I am. I've been in racial contexts, but I'm like, what makes you think that you're supposed to be here, you know? Who told you that this was your earth? I look at people like that. And then sometimes when I get on the bus, you know, there's white people on the bus and they grab their purse, you know. And those are the people I sit next to. I sit right down next to them. And I let them know that I have just as much as they have, and I don't need anything from them, and they hate that. When I was younger, I read about God. But when I got older, it was like I wasn't interested anymore. You know, I was interested in being out and stuff. It wasn't until I was in treatment that I began studying about spirituality, God, my creator, because they told me that I needed a higher power to help me get through this. And I didn't choose to call him God like everyone else. I called him my creator. And that's what works for me. I haven't been able to picture God as, you know, anything. And then there's so many things that go along with, you know what I'm saying about how God looks, you know? It's like, who really knows? So that's why I choose to say my creator, because it's just someone above me that I, you know, talk to. I don't know if I get answers back, but I guess I do get answers because I know that he sends them, but sometimes I just cry. How come you just don't help me when I want you to? He does help me, but not when I want. It's just not going to be on my time, you know? And I have to understand that.
Because the Lord is my shepherd, I have everything I need. He lets me rest in the meadow's grass, and He leads me beside the quiet stream. He restores my failing health, and He helps me to do what honors Him the most. And that's why I'm safe. And that's why I'm safe. And that's why I'm in His arms, because the Lord is my shepherd. Ooh, I have everything I need. He lets me rest in the meadow's grass, and He leads me beside the quiet stream. He restores my failing health, and He helps me to do what honors Him the most. And that's why I'm safe. And that's why I'm safe. And that's why I'm safe. I'm safe. I'm so safe in His arms. Oh, when the storm of life is raging, and the billows they roll. That's why I'm so glad. daddy, not my sister, not my brother. No one can hide me like my God. I'm so safe. I'm so safe. When I'm hopeless, when I'm helpless,